It takes a lot of classes to build a character sheet, but we're almost there. Hello all my JavaScript friends, this is TheVirtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and this is our RPG role-playing game. Well, we're getting very close to the end here. We've still got a bunch of classes to go, but I decided, they really are all kind of within the same area, so let's just kill them all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, I think. 1, 2, I can't really count. That will get us to the point where we finally will be able to generate what we're seeing on the screen here on page 3 after Lord knows how many videos. What, about 10 videos or so? I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter. Here we go. So this is what it looks like. We have, of course, the character sheet that we're seeing on the screen right now, but we're going to have to take a look at and try to figure out what to do with that big, huge list of equipment down there. Plus, we don't know how to worry about our character class, human, magic user, thief. Oh, sorry, not human, magic user, thief, fighter, whatever, or our race, human, elf, dwarf, halfling. So today we're going to take a look and see how that works. Let's get onto the code and take a look at it. Well, first of all, we're going to take a look at is the item class. Now, the item class basically gives us the ability to be a base class for all the different items we have in the game. And basically items are, let's just flip back over to the screen. Items are what you see in the lower left-hand corner here. Your chainmail, your shield, your sword, it includes your weapons, includes your armor, plus all the different pieces that you have, backpacks, rations, water skins, flint, steel, 50-foot rope, things like that. So the item will give us the base that all of our different items share, and they all share things like name, price, price unit, and weight. So we just got very simple things, with constructors on, our constructor for setting the price, setting the unit, getting it, setting, all that kind of fun stuff right there. And we get everything from our database collection if necessary. And that's really all it is, because this is just a simple base class. Now, let's take a look at what extends this particular base class. And that's going to be 3 different pieces of information. The first one is going to be the armor. And the armor is very simple. The armor basically gives us 2 additional pieces of information. Let's just go back over to our screen. And within the armor here, let's flip down to where we find the armor. This is our armor, and basically we have what type it is, the price, the weight, and the armor class. And the only 2 pieces of information I'm going to have additional to this is going to be the armor class, and I'm going to have a category. And that category basically is it going to be a shield type, or is it going to be armor? Because if you notice, they have both shield and armor mixed in together here. Well, I'm going to separate that between shields and armor in case I want to add more shields a little bit later on. So let's go back to there. This is where I add the armor class in the category. So this extends item and then adds our category and armor class. And that's what you do with classes here, is that you take a look at what your, in this case, the character class, and I decided, hey, all of our equipment, all of our weapons, all of our armor and all that have certain characteristics. Let's just share all those characteristics into this item and then have each one define its own particular attributes after it extends items. So not only does it have all of these, price, price unit, weight, and all that, but it also has armor class and category. And where do we get all that information from, by the way? That is from our database. For instance, here is our armor database. This database matches exactly what we see on this screen right here, and gives us all the information that we need to be able to basically use our armor and our shields correctly. Next, after the armor, we're going to have the weapons. And the weapons are, again, exactly the same as the item. It extends the item, but it includes some additional piece of information. How much damage can do? What's the range? What's the size? What's the category? And what's the sharpness? Where did I get that information from? Well, let's flip back over to the screen here, and you can tell here's a whole bunches of weapons here on this page. I did split them into categories. You have a category of axes. You have a category of bows. In fact, you even have subcategories of whether it's an arrow or a short bow, a category of daggers, swords, hammers and maces, and so on and so forth. So I added categories on here, but we also have the additional piece of information of how big it is, what the weight of it is, and what kind of damage it does. And so that matches exactly what we have here: damage, range, size, category, and sharpness. Now, sharpness I added in because there are certain races, or certain classes, excuse me, that cannot have sharp weapons. Clerics, for example. So I took that out, or I put this additional one in there to say, hey, is this a sharp weapon or not? And that way I'll know whether a cleric can use it or not. And so weapon now takes everything that we have in item, like we've seen before, and adds additional pieces of information. Where does it get its data from? It gets its data from this particular database. Very, very simple. There's our hand axe. There's our range, price, and all this data that you see here matches exactly what we see on the screen here in our manual. So as you can tell here, I'm basically just mirroring all the tables and all the data that's here in the manual. The last one is what I call equipment. And basically it's very simple. In fact, there's absolutely nothing there because equipment matches what we see on the screen right here. Basically has a price and a weight, and that's basically it, and plus, some information on it. One piece of additional information that we didn't have that I wanted to show you here is that the prices, you got a lot of here that says like gold pieces and all that, but you do have a few in here that are silver pieces. Let's see if I can find, there's one right there. The bit and brittle is 15 silver pieces. I took care of that when I defined the item database. The item database has a price unit, and usually that's going to be GP, SP for silver piece, CP for copper piece, and so on and so forth. But the equipment basically is just an extension of item. In fact, it pretty much is item. There's really nothing extra there. But by doing this does give me the ability later on, if I wanted to add some additional pieces of information. For example, it's got a particular weight, but it may not have a lot of mass to it. So if it falls on you, it may not hurt as much. But if it happens to fall on you like a big giant stone, it may could do some damage. So I may want to have equipment extend some certain pieces of information that we don't normally have. Magic equipment might be a good example. So therefore, right now, equipment just extends item and gives you really nothing much else besides that. But that database looks like, let's see if I can find it. There it is, equipment.json. That database looks like this. And what you see here, like backpack standard halfling, backpack standard price, and weight matches exactly what we have here. Backpack standard halfling, 4 gold pieces. And in this case, weight, it has an asterisk by it. What I did for that one, just so it can have some kind of weight here, I put a 0.1 as the weight if it had an asterisk by it. And that's basically pretty much, that will cover everything that you see on the left-hand side here on this screen back on page 3. Let's see if we can find it. Where is it? Yeah, here it is right here. This will cover everything that you see on page 3 here with the equipment. So now we have to take a look at now is just how we do races and how we do character classes. Now those are going to be relatively easy to do. You say, well, it's very simple because actually each one of them are just simple little databases. Let's take a look at the character class itself. Now with the character class, we have a certain number of character classes. The idea here is that we're going to get the character class database, and all this particular character class is really absolutely nothing except that it is static routines. Get character class data, get character class ID, is character class by name, is character class by ID. And it just basically gives you some validations based upon the character classes. The database itself is very, very simple. Here it is right here. I say it's simple, but it's huge because it contains a great deal of information. Not only does it contain the name, the type, it contains all the restrictions that are available, and we will cover that when we do the get character. It covers level data, and what I mean by level data is that it's got 20 different levels here of how many experience points you have, how many hit points you get for that level, what kind of attack bonus you get for the abilities, what your saving throws are going to be, and what your spells are going to be, in this case a cleric. And each one for the cleric, for the fighter, for the magic user, and all that kind of fun stuff is all based upon, let's see if I can find one here real quick. Yeah, like here, for instance, the fighter here, he has a different set of level data. So the level data is all based upon your particular class itself. That's what the character class does. And the key thing about this is that notice that this one, and race is going to be the exact same way. Notice that this one, you can't construct it. There is no construction for the character class. So how do we get the data? Well, once you get your character class and select your character class, you do a get character class data, and that will return all this data that you see, in this case we're on the fighter here, it will turn all the data you see here for the fighter inside the character class inside what's called a character class data. And that character class data is this particular group right here. What I've done here is this is a dynamic construction based upon schemas. And if you're interested in how I did schemas, join my Patreon. I show you. I'm doing a series right now of exactly how to get schemas to be able to give you a dynamic data set here. So this is the character class schema that describes what the data is for the character class. But this is what gets returned. This character class is what is returned to the user. So if I select a class of fighter, then the character class data is returned to me, which contains everything that I have here in that's the schema. All right, hold on, here we go. It'll have everything that I have here, for, in this case, for the fighter in this particular case. You see, here's the fighter in full: name, type, description, restrictions, and level data. So that's basically all there is to the character class. So when you select the character class, you can select an ID, and it will map directly to one of these IDs here. Race is exactly the same way. If you notice here for race here, there is absolutely nothing but static routines. Is race by name, get race ID, get race data. It will go through all of the race database, which is located right here. Like for instance, here's the dwarf. Let's see, let's get all the dwarf inside there. Here's the dwarf. Okay, so here's the dwarf information, and that will, if we go back to our screen here, that information is all located here with the dwarfs. So for example, on the dwarf screen here, if we go back to our screen, we got the name, description, weight, height, age, classes, restrictions, special abilities, and saving throws. So classes are basically say this dwarf can only be a fighter, a cleric, or thief, and all that is explained all within the description that you see here between restrictions, special abilities, and saving throws. If we go back over to our screen, we have the restrictions, and we have basically all the different restrictions. For instance, his ability can have a minimum constitution value of 9 and a maximum charisma of 17. His weapon size can only be small or medium. So these are different restrictions. How are these restrictions used? Well, that's used when you generate the player character, which will be the next video. That's not this one here. Special abilities, that is the one thing that I've still not 100% exactly know how to do, because I think that's mostly all going to be just with gameplay and not character generation. And then, of course, saving throws is any kind of saving throw bonuses he has. Like, for instance, he gets a bonus of 4 on the death poison, so he can handle his death poison or his wands or his paralyzed stone or anything like that. Very, very easy. Dragon Breath is 3. Okay, that's cool. So, and basically all of them have this kind of information. Here's the elf. He can do all of these here. These are the combination classes. As unfortunately right now we don't support combination classes, but I will add that in a little bit later. But that's no big deal at this point. So that's basically the race. What kind of data does it return? As you can tell here, the race does not. You cannot construct a race, but it does return a race data, and that race data is located right here, and it works the exact same way as the character class did. Is I'm constructing it based upon a schema, this is something I just literally started experimenting with. And again, join my Patreon if you want to see exactly how it's done, or just try to study what I've done here. But what I've done here is kind of cut a lot of corners, but to try to get it to work correctly. But it's no big deal here. So this basically is the idea now, is that we can now go into this screen and up to here. At this particular point in time, we've covered how to set the name, how to set the race, how to set the character class, how to set all the different abilities, how to set the armor class, or all the different attributes, which includes the money, the saving throws, the attack bonus, the armor class, the level, and blah, blah, blah. How to set all the different equipment, how to get weapons, how to get armor, and all that. So our next video that we're going to be releasing here is the grand finale to this particular first part of the RPG. Like I said, it's going to take a year to do this whole thing, but we'll finally get to complete page 3 and get to this section right here. Although we name our character first, as you'll see when we run our thing. So thank you very much for being with us. Can't wait to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel to view more videos. Click on the like button on this video and visit us at TheVirtuoid.com. Also, support us on Patreon, where you can get access to member-only videos. Links are down below. Again, thank you very much for watching. and keep on coding.